I had reached my limit in the mentally exhausting days of being pressured by my mother-in-law. I can't take it anymore. I want to go back to my parents' house. When I said that, my husband approached me with a cold expression.
Well then, let's get a divorce. There's no point in supporting someone like you.
What on earth is he saying? After that, both my mother-in-law and husband fell into a complete breakdown. My name is Blair. I'm 35 years old and work in an advertising agency. I had been so focused on my work that I hadn't had any opportunities to meet someone.
Blair, you're already 30.
Have you thought about getting married? Yeah, but I'm not really interested in that kind of thing. At that time, my parents gently urged me to consider marriage. However, I purposely avoided having any interest in marriage back then. I lacked confidence in myself when it came to romance. In fact, I had become quite timid when it came to romance. I was afraid that even if I desperately tried to find a boyfriend, we would break up before reaching marriage. I didn't want to be filled with expectations and then be betrayed. Just the thought of it made my heart ache. I had been through a terrible breakup with a boyfriend in the past. I thought he cared for me, but it turned out he was cheating on me with multiple women. When I confronted him about why he would cheat, he made cruel remarks.
If you eat French cuisine and high-end steaks every day, won't you get tired of it? Don't you ever feel like having something light and subtly flavored?
Huh? What are you talking about?
It's normal to occasionally want to have fun with other women. That's what I mean.
He said that and mocked me. This incident became the catalyst for my fear of love, and I closed my heart off to men. I hadn't told my parents about this, but somehow they seemed to understand that I was afraid of romance. In reality, I wanted to have a proper relationship, get married, and make my parents happy. But I couldn't take that first step easily. Amidst all of this, one day, I had a fateful encounter. It happened at my workplace. We've secured a new deal this time. You be in charge of that company, Blair. Upon hearing that from my boss, I went to introduce myself to the new client.
Nice to meet you. I'm Holland, in charge of N Company.
Nice to meet you too. I'm Blair, from S Company. We exchanged business cards. And in that instant, I fell in love at first sight with the man who was my counterpart. Harlan's appearance, atmosphere, and voice were all my liking. From then on, I looked forward to every visit to his office. He always interacted with me with a refreshing smile, and I couldn't help but feel excited. Before I knew it, I found myself smiling and laughing like a fool. But of course, I still managed to handle my work perfectly.
Blair, you're really capable at your job. There's a lot I can learn from you.
No, that's not true at all.
Oh, come on. You don't have to be so modest. By the way, if you were interested, would you like to have a meal together sometime? Whenever you're free, after things settle down with our current project.
Yes, definitely. I naturally accepted his invitation to have a meal together. The old me would never have done such a thing. Strangely, I felt naturally inclined to accept his dinner invitation. A few days later, we went out for a meal after work. He was very gentlemanly, and the conversation was incredibly enjoyable. While he was serious during work, in private, he had a great sense of humor and was friendly and cheerful. That's why I found myself becoming more and more attracted to him. It had been a long time since I had developed feelings for someone. And from then on, he started inviting me out for meals regularly.
Being with you, Blair, makes me feel very calm.
Oh, is that so? I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. That's why, if you're okay with it, would you like to go on a date with me?
Oh, a date?
I wouldn't force you if you don't wanna.
No way. No. I mean, I'd love to. Me too. I want to go out with you, Harlan.
Really? Great! Well, first, how about an Italian? There's a place I've been curious about.
Yes, let's go there. I was thrilled to be invited by him on a weekend date. I even bought new clothes for the occasion after a long time. With determination, I embarked on a date with Harlan.
That outfit looks good on you. It suits you very well.
Thank you very much. He praised the new clothes I bought, and I thought he was a caring and kind person. We went on several dates and eventually became a couple. I hadn't had a boyfriend for many years, so I had some anxieties. But the desire to be in a relationship with him was stronger. He always took the lead. I felt that I wanted to be with him forever. Then, 2 years after we started dating, he proposed to me. Until now, I wasn't interested in marriage or anything like that.
But when I met you, Blair, I realized I wanted to get married for the first time. So, will you marry me, Blair?
Saying that, he handed me the ring. My answer had already been decided. Yes. Of course I'll marry you. And so, we decided to get married. When we informed our parents about the decision to get married, they were overjoyed. Seeing my mother shedding tears of happiness, I felt a twinge of regret for causing her so much worry. I was glad that I could fulfill my duty as a daughter by getting married. We then went to meet each other's parents, and my parents were very fond of Harlan. He is such a refreshing and well-mannered person.
Yes, it seems like he's working hard in his job too. We can entrust Blair to him with peace of mind.
I was happy that both of my parents accepted him. We successfully completed the greetings at my in-laws, and we decided to have a wedding ceremony. Many friends and co-workers attended the wedding and celebrated joyously. I received words of blessing from everyone and experienced unparalleled happiness. After that, we went on our honeymoon to Europe, and our married life as husband and wife began. I continued working even after getting married. Therefore, we shared the household chores. On days with overtime, we cooperated and took turns cooking and cleaning. My husband had lived alone for a long time, so he could manage to cook to some extent. Even though it was mostly simple pasta, I was grateful that he made it. On our days off, since we both enjoyed visiting cafes, we would search for new cafes we hadn't been to and go together. We also went to the beach as part of a drive and had a great time together. Our newlywed life was very happy in that way. I, who was timid in love, never imagined I could have such a happy married life. So I was truly delighted. We will continue to create joyful memories together in the future. We want to have kids too. I was thinking like that. So I never dreamed that such hellish days would come after that. 3 years have passed since we started our happy married life together. We still had a great relationship and were happy. In the midst of that, one day, an unexpected event occurred.
Huh? Dad collapsed?
It was a sudden message from my mother-in-law. She said that my father-in-law suddenly collapsed at home and was taken to the hospital by an ambulance. We immediately headed to the hospital. The cause seemed to be a heart attack. He underwent emergency treatment, but my father-in-law passed away. Why did you leave me behind? My mother-in-law, seeing my father-in-law sleeping in the hospital room, broke down in tears. Both my husband and I were deeply saddened by his death. But my mother-in-law's despair was unbearable to witness. Even during the funeral, she was engulfed in sorrow. It seemed like my husband had some thoughts as he observed her state. After the funeral, my husband approached me and said something like this.
Leaving mom alone is a concern. I'm thinking of living together in my parents' house.
Huh? Living together?
Yeah. Seeing mom's despair worries me. What do you think?
Harlan, to be honest, I wasn't very enthusiastic about living together. I thought about whether it was the right thing to do for the sake of my husband. Okay, let's do it.
Thank you, Blair. I'll contact mom right away.
My husband said that and called his mother, deciding to move to his parents' house. My mother-in-law, feeling lonely being alone, quickly accepted the idea of living together. And so, our cohabitation with my mother-in-law began. Even though we started living together, my mother-in-law still carried the heavy burden of grief from losing her husband, and she wasn't very energetic. So my husband and I shared the household chores as much as possible, trying to lessen her load. The house was bigger than our previous one, so it took a bit more time, but it wasn't a major issue. However, around 6 months, my mother-in-law's attitude started to change.
Hey, Blair? Why are you letting Harlan do the household chores?
Oh, well, since we both work, we've always shared the household chores.
What are you saying? The wife should do that kind of thing.
What?
And what do you mean by saying you've always shared the chores? Have you been making him do the chores all along? This is unacceptable.
My mother-in-law started shouting like that.
From now on, I absolutely won't let Harlan do the household chores. You will do everything. You got that?
What? After that, all the household chores ended up being my responsibility. Whenever my husband tried to help, my mother-in-law would say,
Harlan, you don't need to do them.
She tried to prevent my husband from doing any household chores at all. I ended up struggling with all the housework on my own every day. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law seemed to be getting more energetic day by day. In proportion to that, she became more strict and critical towards me.
What's this?
This dish doesn't taste good at all. Did you always feed my son with such terrible food? Unbelievable. My mother-in-law constantly complained about my housework like that. And my husband didn't intervene to stop her bad-mouthing me. Hey, why don't you stand up for me?
Isn't it a sign that mom is feeling better? Let her say a few things. She's grieving for losing dad, you know.
It's a good thing that she is feeling better. But logically, it's not right. I have no reason to endure complaints and bad-mouthing from her. But her insults towards me just never stopped. She also put pressures on me, asking when we would have her grandchildren, or when I would quit my job. The burden of chores increased, and I was under stress from my mother-in-law, both mentally and physically. And in the midst of all that, an incident occurred that made me suspect my husband's infidelity. I learned about it from a colleague. Isn't this Harlan? The colleague, who was on a trip to a local tourist spot, witnessed Harlan walking with an unfamiliar woman there. Harlan had said he was on a business trip that day and wasn't at home. When I looked at the photos sent by my colleague, there was no doubt it was Harlan. Perhaps she was someone he was traveling with on a business trip. Or maybe... But the casual clothes they were wearing and the way they walked arm in arm left no room for doubt. It was clearly not related to work. I felt an overwhelming sense of despair. My husband was cheating on me. He had betrayed me. So this is why he didn't stand up for me against my difficult mother-in-law. I couldn't live together with him anymore. I decided to hire a private investigator. I decided to gather evidence of my husband's affair. The evidence photos quickly piled up, and preparations for divorce proceeded rapidly. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law's verbal abuse towards me continued, or rather, it got even worse. My husband still didn't do anything to stop it. He simply had no interest in me. I guess he was too preoccupied with his affair partner. Amidst busy work and household chores, I managed to find some time and finally completed the preparations for divorce with the help of a lawyer. Every day I was mentally cornered by my mother-in-law and I had reached my limit. One day I called my husband and said, "I can't take it anymore. Please let me go back to my parents' house. Your mother's attitude towards me is just too terrible." Upon hearing this, my husband responded with a cold expression.
If that's what you want, then let's get a divorce. There's no point in supporting someone like you. I've been frustrated, with the fact that I have very little money to use.
I couldn't understand what he was saying. I earn my own money, just like him. My salary is not any less than his. Furthermore, I do all the household chores. In an instant, my remaining love for my husband vanished. Well, there was no other choice but to divorce, especially considering his affair. Fine, let's get a divorce. My husband was surprised by how readily I agreed to divorce. There was no reason to hesitate anymore. The following week, I immediately began the divorce proceedings. I started packing my belongings to return to my parents' house. That's when my mother-in-law said,
Did you decide to get a divorce by any chance?
"I always thought that a woman like you wasn't a match for Harlan." She continued to belittle me, even now. And my husband joined in and laughing alone.
Yeah, you're right, Mom.
I'm glad that the divorce is happening. Ignoring the two of them as they laughed, I left my in-laws' house. Afterward, both my mother-in-law and husband experienced a rapid downfall. I immediately sent proof of delivery to my husband's workplace through my lawyer. The contents, of course, included a demand for compensation for the affair. I also claimed compensation for the mental anguish caused by the constant harassment from my mother-in-law. As a result, everyone at my husband's workplace came to know about it. Career advancement is out of the question. My husband will likely be demoted or fired. As for the affair partner, she couldn't bear the cold stares from her surroundings and voluntarily resigned. And it seems that my ex-mother-in-law and ex-husband have the worst relationship imaginable.
It's because of you, Mom, that I have to pay a large amount of compensation. What did you say?
It's because you had an affair. It seems that my ex-husband blamed my ex-mother-in-law and they cut ties with each other. Furthermore, my ex-mother-in-law's harassment of me became known among the neighbors, and she became isolated, spending her days in loneliness. On the other hand, I have been living with my parents and working hard on my job. In the summer, I decided to move out of my parents' house and purchase a new home. With a substantial amount of compensation and my diligent work, I recently received a promotion. I want to continue working hard and earning a living. I'm excited about the new house, and I'm thinking of finding new hobbies and enriching my life. From now on, I will live for myself and focus on my own happiness.